Yo, what's up? It's your boy DJ LeX Be Frank. I'm here with my boy Franco Fresh. What's up, baby?
The people's painter, man. Just back for another great show, man.
Oh, I know.
How's it going, brother?
We just had Eric Almanza on, and now we have another special guest, one of your own best friends, right? Or that's what you were saying earlier.
I don't know. Are we best friends, Sergio? I'll be your best friend.
Yeah, we are just what?
Yeah. Well,
good friend, best friend.
I'm very honored to have you on. This special guest, the great artist Sergio Teran, who I'm a big fan of. He's influenced my work a whole lot. I've looked to him for a lot of inspiration when I was younger, and I love his work. And I'm really honored to have you here on the show, especially after we had Eric Almanza on here. And we spoke about and what we were doing with that, the three of us. So, man, I'm really honored, man. I'm happy to have you on the show, man.
Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate being on with you guys. And likewise, the feeling's mutual, Frankie.
Thank you, man.
I think it's fortuitous that we met when we did in a big old city that has other than Mexicans. Yeah, we really are the minority when you're in a city that's so enveloped with cultures. And I thought it was really good fortune that I got a chance to meet you, or you actually stepped into my studio to do it.
Right. Randomly, man. And you know what? Randomly. And I was still trying to find myself. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just educating. I was concerned about getting skills. And figured out, and it was the cool thing, and because I had studied at Berkeley, which was conceptual and more abstract kind of stuff, and then I went from there to the New York Academy, which was just academic, 17th century type of work, and to run into you, man, you were just like already there, bro. You were the Chicano artist. I had never even seen any Chicano artists in New York, and I was like, you were like the prototype, like you helped me open up my eyes to. Oh shit, this is what I need to be doing. And that was powerful. And all those years that we kind of lost track, I always wondered what's going on with you guys and like what you were doing, man, what's this guy up to, man? But I always look back to the work that you were doing back then, to kind of that really influenced it. You helped me find a direction. And all the choices that I could have taken, and to see you out there in New York was like, whoa, bro, this is good. And you were just doing it, bro. You were just natural about it. It took me I don't consider myself an artist back then. I was an artist in training. I didn't get my shit together maybe until like 10 years after that. But definitely you were an inspiration and helped me get rolling in my direction as well.
So. Wow, that's wow. It was an interesting time, man. Early 2000s. Just to give people
9/11, bro.
9/11. We all saw it from. You were much closer. I was in Brooklyn at the time. You and my wife, my girlfriend at the time, was now my wife. You guys were like 3 blocks away? I don't know how far away you were.
8 blocks. 8 blocks. But those buildings are so tall, bro. You just look, you look up 8 blocks.
If it toppled, it probably would have reached y'all.
No, we were within the ground zero. We had to leave, and we couldn't go back to school for like another week. But we were on the very outskirt of the disaster.
Yeah, you were on Canal Street, I remember.
Right.
But just to give context of the time period, quite honestly, Frankie, I didn't know what Chicano meant at the time. You
were just being you.
I had no, it was the first time that there was artists from Mexico. I was going to NYU, and you were going to the academy. Yeah. And NYU was more of a conceptual based program. And so there was a lot of, which is a great program. And this was the first time I had Mexican artists from Mexico look at my work and go, oh, Chicano. I had no fucking clue what they were talking about. No clue. Yeah. And in turn, I realized that, oh, you're not Mexican from Mexico.
Yeah.
Right? And so then at the same time, as I'm sure you've had this issue with, well, what the fuck am I in the context of America? So there's a dilemma here because I'm in between these two places. Where do I exist?
Right.
So the work for me was as well finding itself and going, but for sure, I was painting at the time and knowing, at the time it's kind of like like playing the guitar or the a jazz musician who knows how to play and is just trying to find shit. And I think that's where I was.
Yeah.
Nice.
I tell you this for the longest time. I avoided being labeled a Chicano artist. I didn't like. They would ask me like, "Is your work Chicano?" I'm like, "What the fuck is that supposed to mean? I am Chicano." So not understanding, the things that are connected with that. But that was. I remember avoiding that. I didn't want to be put in a box. Okay, so I just wanted to be considered a human being. But that evolved. I mean, by being Chicano, I became more honest. With my work, became more real and more honest by connecting to those roots. So it took me a while to embrace it, but once I did, that's when I started to build a name for myself. And I said, you know what? And then I realized that, you know what? This is my role. This is what I need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I embraced it from that point on. It took a while. But I just didn't. I didn't want to embrace things if I didn't understand what I was getting into. I didn't want to just say it just to say it.
Yeah, this topic comes up a lot. What am I? Chicano, Mexican American, Mexicanx. What is it? Mexicanx, Latinx,
yeah,
Chicano X.
And that's one of the
it's like
things we talk about.
Yeah, Chicanx. So that's that this topic comes up all the time, and we always talk about it.
Well, that's one of the topics we like to ask people.
We like to ask, yeah.
That's a conversation. Like, what do you? There's no right and wrong answers. We just talk to people. How do you? What do you call your? And why? And we discuss all those things, and they usually get pretty interesting.
Yeah, very.
These kind of labels that we discuss those things a lot.
Yeah.
It becomes people like to do it, man, because I think in America, this melting pot, it's kind of something that we need to talk about.
Yeah, and it gives people identity. You know what I mean? Like that's they kind of like, oh, okay, you know what? I feel like I'm this because of this, right? Like I was telling Frankie. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. It's all good.
I was just gonna say I've always been excited when you see like a celebrity or pop culture recognizing that they're Latinos. I'm just like, what? Like, right, like I was always for, and this is before I understood who or what I was.
Right.
But that sort of excitement, for when people talk about it or people recognize it or people acknowledge
representation. And we hardly had any of it when we were younger. What we had like Cheech and a few other people, and to see
before Cheech, man.
Well, I mean, but I'm talking about
Chente.
TV, you know what I mean? On American popular culture. Who else was out there? You know what I mean? That were about it, So I think that's important. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Alex, I cut off Alex. I wanted to hear his train of thought that he was making right now.
No, you know what? It's all good. I think I forgot. Don't trip. It's all good. I'll come back.
The first person that I felt like this was somebody how I wanted to be like was we had cable in 1981. We got cable. It was like cable was coming in at the time, and they were playing reruns of Zootsuit, and I saw Edward James Olmos, and then I saw him again. Then I saw him again in Blade Runner, and then I was like, what's up with that, right? And because there was, Zootsuit was a little bit like that, but it was the first time that I saw a Latino who was not a bandido or, the like token
stereotype.
Stereotype. He was an actual character with his own persona that was pretty badass. And
he was actually Mexican American too.
Yeah, he was
Zootsuit. Right. You know what I mean? Not some other ethnicity playing a Mexican.
Yeah, so those things lingered in my mind, and coming back to the different stages when I was figuring things out as to where the hell it is I do belong. That was always a frame of reference, I think later as we got further along, recognizing that because I was in the same boat as you, Frankie, is that like I didn't call myself Chicano. First of all, back in New York City in 2000, I didn't realize that I was. Go ahead.
You remember when we had a Cinco de Mayo party with the students from the academy, a bunch of British people and stuff, white folks basically. And I brought my mole, and you brought fucking some rice and or something like that. Yeah. Well, I had to teach people how to make tacos. I was like, what? Like, what? I was teaching them how to make. I couldn't understand. Like, you guys don't know what. Can you tell me?
And I think tacos are Chicano thing, right? Or no, burritos are Chicano.
They have no idea. They had no idea of what a Chicano was. at all. And I remember talking to different people, having to explain, like, you guys don't know this shit. We're everywhere. So yeah.
It's an it's a conundrum, man, because you realize that in the larger scope of things, and when we were growing up, we didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like where did we? So things like Edward James Olmos or Selena or anything that represents us, you're like, I'm gonna grab on and hang on to that. What does that mean? Investigate or say who you are, right? Because there's actors out there who never did. They never acknowledge. It's like, why don't they say that? They're, make me feel like I can see myself on the other side. But it's sort of really important to be able to see yourself, I think. And I think nowadays, for sure. But back then in 2000, 20 years ago, it wasn't there, man. Like it was, it was really funny. Yeah, they didn't know how to make that stuff. But at the same time, it was interesting because it was such a salad of people. I was really learning about other people too, and then I thought, I really thought that was the beauty of New York City, is that it gave you so much in diversity. You're right on top of each other. You're sitting on the train right next to each other, and
rich and poor, famous.
Yeah, and it's really, really a beautiful thing. But at the same time, we brought that food, Frankie. And we had that, and we were taking. They sort of took us in at the same level. There was no hierarchy, at least not. I didn't feel a hierarchy. Everybody was just sort of sampling and going to, what are you about? What are you about? It felt good. I really appreciated and enjoyed that time, learning from people and being accepted in that way as well. I think New York, for me, was very much about that. Going, you're really, man. I got people. I didn't know who the fuck I was, and people were like, "Ooh, what's this come from?" It in the context of a city where I can pick up a rock and hit somebody and go, "Boom, Chicano," right? It's really, people don't know where you are. I had a friend who was in the program with me, and she would make these stereotypes, and I was just like, "What? Where's that coming from?" Right? Like. And she would make them to jokingly. It's like kind of like, oh wow, I know you that good already. All right, but it was just sort of an interesting thing. Like I think she was being very sincere at the same time as to wanting to understand where it is that I come from. They really genuinely didn't fucking know, what it is that I am, because I wasn't the artist from Mexico who's actually a really, really terrific video artist. It's just not the same thing. He's fighting for a different thing.
And bro, there wasn't a lot of Mexicans. The Mexicans that were there were all like little Indios from Oaxaca. So they didn't have a concept. There's not like there wasn't good Mexican food out there. Right? So there was not even Mexican.
No.
They used to come out there, dude, you're hella tall for a Mexican. You're hella tall, and I'd be like,
yeah.
I'm like normal out here, but they were used to seeing Mexicans as these little workers, bro.
Yeah.
It was a different time, so I mean, there was no frame of reference for it.
Right.
So that became. I think that's kind of our job. At least I kind of see that for myself. That just putting us out there, our faces and stuff like that. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing as well, man. Just shit. Because I always say this. I feel like if you get to know us, our culture, our people, you're gonna love us. The more you get to know us, the more you're gonna love us, man. And so I feel like
except for Trump.
People. I think that it hasn't been accepted quite yet, but it's as American as fucking apple pie.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
100%.
This is not Mexican. This is made. It's like the lowrider, bro. The lowrider can't exist in Mexico. It's an American fucking. The lowrider is as American as apple pie, dude. Yeah. Because it was the car culture, the low. You know what I mean? That I tell people a lot. It's an American thing. It's not a Mexican thing. It's an American perspective, whether you like it or not. It's just
Did you guys know, like in Japan and like in other parts of the world, they have a Chicano culture? Yeah, they are Japanese or they're Chinese, but they dress like zoot suiters, or they dress, with lowrider. They have their low riders. Their chicas all got tattoos on the faces and stuff. They what's that word? No, not embraced it, but they not assimilated.
Yeah, but it's also like an outsider kind of culture that we had to create within this country. It's like an outsider subculture also. So I can understand why that would work in other places where people don't feel like they're quite fitting in or whatever. You know?
Look at Gwen Stefani. Gwen Stefani did the whole Chicano culture thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I didn't used to trip off her, but now I'm looking back, I'm like, this chick was fighting all this shit, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But it is what it is. I feel
Yeah.
like the more we feel it, the more they're gonna love us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I just it's like time to accept it and go like, hey, where's our wing at the Smithsonian? Because like, you know, what the fuck? Like, we are, you know, this is an American product. You know,
Yeah.
You know, when you have other people writing your story for you, that's problematic. But that's where painting comes in. You know,
That's because it's his story.
Yeah, exactly. But when we're making up, and that's how I feel about it. Is like when we're writing and dictating our story and the existence of us in art.
Yeah.
It's sort of our job to sort of put markers down for people to, you know, for the generation behind us to go like, oh yeah, here, you know, here it is, there it is, it's available to us. We do exist, or just as an example of
that's
this
that's why I love what Chief Marin has done with his collection, because he tried to his Chicano collection. He tried to get it out to all these different, you know, museums and collections, and they didn't get it. You know what I mean? So he went and did his own thing. He created his own lane for us. I love that he's actually done that, man. Because we're you know, that show that he had, that Chicano art show that went around the U.S. You guys remember that with Target?
Yeah.
That to this day is the largest art turnout ever in U.S. history. More people went to that show. That Chicano, and I don't know if you guys saw it. I saw it here for the young years ago. I felt proud when I came out of that thing. So that's one of the things I love, that he, instead of trying to be accepted necessarily, he went and threw someone to their own lane. This is another movement. You just have to, like impressionism or anything else. It's a different kind of thing that we're doing. Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. I think that, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I mean, I think more now it's getting a little more recognized, and still not enough. There's still more doors that got to be opened. But as long as we're continuously going, hey, this is us. This is where we are. You can't deny it. Yeah. Here it is. Look, I'm in Los Angeles, or you know, I'm in Modesto, or wherever we are in New York, or New York City. You know, like this is where we exist, and here's the story, and here's evidence of it. Like they can't deny it. You know, like it's just it's. And more, I think, you know, sometimes I get annoyed. It's like, man, I remember, you know, like you capturing music when we had to go and research and go to the actual, you know, like record shop to buy stuff. Yeah. You capturing music now, but you know, the information at the same time for who you know, Chicanos are, or who Latinx are, is out there as well. The information's getting to them just as quick. So on the upside is that hopefully this podcast is being listened to 40 years from now, and it's in the context of a university, you know, or a place somewhere where people are actually going, let's find out a little bit more about these people from the United States, you know.
Yeah, so, that would be super cool.
And people, I feel like people will try to kind of pretend that we don't exist, right? And there's not enough of us, I think. And I think it's literally, we have to be about it. We have to be the ones that are leading the way, because we'll inspire the next people to come after us as well.
Right. Yeah.
So and I think that's why, you know, defining who we are and not necessarily a label, but identifying with this thing really makes it, puts it in context for everyone, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyways.
So Sergio, let me ask you a question. So before, because you were saying that you didn't identify yourself as Chicano for a while, what did you identify yourself with? And then now that you identify yourself, do you identify yourself 100% like I'm Chicano?
Well, I think in the beginning I understood myself to be Mexican American, right? And before I understood, I thought of the word Chicano as Chicano movement, and I also knew Chicano artists at the time, and I thought that's who they were. Like I wasn't, there was out of respect, like, you know, like Taxi Valdez and Gronk and John Valadez, those artists, you know, Osco, that's the Chicano artist, you know, that's how that's what that was. I wasn't gonna try to, you know, appropriate anything in any way, but at the same time, I also didn't grow up in the way that they were Chicanos at the time in the 70s and the 80s, so it was a completely different time, and so it encapsulates it. And also, whenever there's an actual show, and we talk about the Cheech Marin show, those are the people who I highlight. It's like they are the poster people for that time and that movement, and that's how that's what I thought of at that time. So I saw myself as Mexican American. So when people were going, "Oh, Chicano," and I was just kind of like, how so? Like I don't think I work that way, But what at the same time, they are putting you in a box, like you're saying, right?
Yeah.
You in a box, and they have to identify you in a certain way, and that's okay, So at the time, I identified myself as the Mexican American, to answer your question, and then eventually I realized that identifying yourself in the art world as a Chicano is inherently a political act, and I was like, fuck yeah, that's right, right? That's why that's there. It's because I'm saying I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, take all of my ethnicity away so that you can feel better about whatever it is, or reference whatever it is that you reference in a generalization of people from the United States. It's bothersome for people to talk about ethnicity in the context of their theory-based bullshit. And I'm not saying that theory work is bullshit. I'm just saying that it needs to be a part of the conversation. It's just a different wing in the museum that you have to identify these people, because we're struggling. We've struggled. There's from my perspective, there's oppression, this unspoken oppression that exists, and we're fighting through it.
Right.
And so identifying as all of it for now, Latinx, Chicano, Mexican American, is what I would say I am, and what I sort of make work on behalf of.
Right.
Yeah, what I find interesting is that you said you were just making art, right? But you were making Chicano art without even knowing it, because you were Chicano.
Right. Right.
And not just that, but you're because of your art, bro. That's why I love it. It's a very honest. You spoke very truthful and honest, and you were just being Chicano, so that's why it looked like it. It wasn't like you were trying to be that, right?
Yeah.
And that, but people could see that. So in a way, now we claim it, we're about it now. But at the time when you were just being you were still being that, right? Because it's who you are. It's who you are, right?
So have you stopped identifying yourself as Mexican American, or do you still continue to?
No, I've heard them.
You continue to.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's kind of a fact. It's a fact of the matter. It's a fact of the matter. What I dislike is being forced to identify as something that I'm not.
Right.
And whatever I can identify myself and like talk about a door that needs to be open, and the word Mexican American, or the phrase Mexican American, or Chicano or Chicano X or Latinx opens those doors or helps those doors be open. I think that I'm all for that. And so that's where I think I fit it.
With that, okay, good. But we say that we identify with the stuff, but I always feel like people just good artists, great artists, they pull from an honest place, from where and who they are. So no matter what it is, what ethnicity, whatever, you're going to pull from that place or that cultural place. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, like
the most successful artists do, right?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to be. I mean, if we're talking about this, like exactly who we are and what we identify, and where we're from, that sort of thing, that's sort of like where that has merit we talk about. But if I look at your work, Frankie, if I look at the way you're painting and the references that we can talk about in terms of the art form, it's a salad of other things. We can talk about some of the European painters that we enjoy. We talk about some of the Mexican painters from Mexico who studied in Europe, who came to the States, that it references, right? And then we talk about pop culture, and so it's this salad of stuff. So that's the complication of who we are. It's like we are this when we're talking about politically speaking, but when we're talking about the art form that we're practicing, like poetry or music or playing the guitar, there's so many layers, right? You know,
Universal language.
When we want to talk about rock and roll as the influence of the blues, you know, and you know, we want to talk about that lineage. We have the same layers. Just a part of that sort of peanut butter is Latinx, Chicanos, you know. So yeah, we can sit and talk about painting for hours, and we've possibly even done that, and talk about layers, and we talk about technique, and we talk about, you know, the ghosts of people who influence our studios, without talking about Chicano X. But that's just a part of the app, you know, that sort of layer, that sandwich on top of everything that we do.
Right.
You know what? I feel like you know, I've been looking at things a little bit different. Like, I feel like, you know, like we're being labeled, let's say, as Latinos, right, or something, and then there's the regular art world, right, the regular conversation, right, and somehow we're supposed to be a part of that as well, or whatever, you know what I mean? But in the end, you know, there's artists like Ansel Kiefer, right? His art is about Germany, right? I feel like this, what we think is like art, is really white culture. It's still white. They're still digging into their own. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, you know,
own,
I think that often that's where they want to talk. You know, they're like, I want to talk based on, like, no, that's you. You know, we're not. Yeah, you have to open it up and say that's not the only. Not to mention that they're not pulling. They're pulling from the other side of the world as well, man. Yeah,
right,
we think of Picasso and some of the contemporaries of Picasso's time and how influenced they were by African, you know, like artifacts of those times, and they made it their own. It's like, you know, those people are pulling from indigenous cultures, and you know those people are pulling from. So it all becomes sort of this overlapping of things. We, you know, without saying, like, you know, we're influenced by each other, and yeah, we identify with those things because they're from another world and they're beautiful, right? But I think it happens in the other way as well. It's not just us. You know, if we're talking about the art world, I don't think I have to make videos, you know, or like contemporary performance Zoom meetings.
Sure, you're not into the things that aren't.
No. I appreciate that. And I think that I'm glad that there's you know, an understanding of that. Yeah, but I know that if we're talking about modern contemporary, we have to talk about technology, and all that exists really well. But my art form lies in the studio and in painting and in drawing and in printing. So that's where I'm going to talk. The other stuff's going to fall in place, I assume. I don't know, or maybe it won't. Who's really good at that?
You know, I've come to the conclusion that you follow what you're good at, your inclinations. You know, they try to say that, you know, if Rembrandt would be a conceptual artist today, right? I think that's bullshit. Rembrandt could draw, you know what I mean? And so he loved to draw. I love to draw. So I draw, and I can do it well, so I draw. If I did it, maybe I'd express myself another way. But I'm not going to say that other way is supposed to be the way, you know, or that what I'm doing is less important because it's old or whatever the hell it is. It's just what I do, you know what I mean? So I've learned to kind of, even though, you know, you hear the world say one thing, or you're supposed to do this and that, or this is what's in or out, I'm in it because this is what comes out of me. You know what I mean? This is my natural inclination to do this kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. You know, I want to watch the movie where Rembrandt does come to the future and he's like, fuck contemporary art. You know, like, that's a funny ass movie. You know, that's how maybe he's a cook, or maybe he just ignores everything. You know, like, that's the funny ass movie I want to see. You know, I think a lot of people throw around that you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to, and you know, and you probably, well, you went to a school that was painting, Frankie. In grad school, people were like just going like, what are you painting for? You know, all this shit, and it's just like, well, there was moments where I was like, I don't know why the fuck I'm painting, but I have to do it. But I wake up and wanting to do it.
Yeah. Right. When I was at Cal, when I was going to transfer, I got accepted into the Academy of Art. I remember the teachers telling me, hey, remember, Frank, you can teach a monkey how to draw. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, well, I'm going there anyways. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, and it confuses
your teacher said this? Your teachers were telling you this? And these were what? Art teachers? And were these art teachers?
We're coming out of the edge of this conceptual abstract kind of Well, and when I got into the Academy of Art, that was the only figurative art school, and they were telling me not to go. That was the only. I was dedicated to go there, and lucky because now it's everywhere. You know, now this figurative stuff is there. I was lucky that I followed my intuitions as it was. It's funny, man, because when I went over there to the Academy of Art, I was like, I thought I was gonna, because I had all these conceptualists that I had to argue with and debate with and blah blah blah. And then I thought when I'd go to the Academy, I was gonna meet like brothers who thought like I did, who loved drawing and painting. They were worse. There were more haters than they hated other artists that were non-drawing, that more so than they weren't as open-minded, is what I'm trying to say. And I was like, wow, these guys are even, you know what I mean? These guys are even more narrow-minded or more hateful towards these other new forms of expression. But that thought was kind of shocked me.
Yeah, no, I had, so I had the same experience in undergrad, and so what we got, Alex, basically is people who went to school in the 70s, who were a product of the artists before them, and were telling them, this is what's in, this is what's important.
Our teachers,
and then basically they will then teach that to the next generation. When you have a generation who's influential, it could come out the wrong way. Being an educator, there's times where I might have an opinion of something that I shouldn't have an opinion of in the classroom. Right. And I sort of check myself, but there's people that don't check themselves, or people that don't recognize that, and I'm being vague on purpose here, just so I don't, I'm not trying to be political in any way, but in choice. But that's what we had. I had similar instructors who were just like, oh, this is, why are you doing that? What's the point of that? And at the same time, like now, fortunately, at the time I didn't know, I didn't know myself as well as I know myself now, but it's like, hey, motherfucker, like maybe you should watch. Did you have immigrant parents? Did the parents have? Did you have any parents or relatives that had trouble with drugs? Were you working class the majority of your childhood, or like poverty, like that sort of shit? Like, are we the same? Could we talk to the same? You want to talk to me about modern art, or a vocabulary for modern work? Oh, it doesn't mean shit to me. There's blood that we're talking about that I want to address. I can't walk over this stuff, and so it's coming out maybe in tools that are closest to me, and those tools might be passe and old to you, but I'm picking them up and I'm going to make some poetry. At least I'm going to attempt to, and it might be accepted or not. But it's all relative, man. It's all relative. I've seen some students from past generation who come up and they do modern work, and they do awesome work, man, and I love it. And I'm glad. We shouldn't all be the same. That's just what we have. Every generation, there's a dying breed of that generation, I think, and because they'll change. They'll change. If we think back to Mexican Americans, Pachucos, Latinos, gangsters, there's a lineage of what that looks like, and the last one doesn't exist anymore.
The term Chicano was a derogatory term at one time. I just learned this yesterday. I was doing some reading. In the 40s and 50s, it was a derogatory term. But so was the Baroque. Baroque art also was used as a derogatory term.
Most of those. Yeah.
And then they end up becoming these positive terms later, which I think is happening with the term Chicano.
Yeah.
But so was Hispanic. Hispanic was used as a
term to identify you on paper, basically.
Exactly, but it was also used as like it was Hispanic, right, or something like that. Is that right, or is that just something?
I'm sure that's just a Latino bullshit.
Oh.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know if I can tell, but that sounds something like one of my buddies would talk shit about. But yeah, I'm sure.
That's what I heard. I think one of my old teachers, Mr. Ortiz, told me that. That's where it came from. So it was a long time ago, man. Long time ago. But yeah, that's that. I think that always stuck with me. Like it was Hispanic. That's why they're like, oh no, you can't let these people in because they're panicking, right? Hispanic. Well, anyways, I'll scratch that part.
Also with one of the reasons I chose to really learn how to draw and do that stuff is that I had met a lot of people that had, I was doing graffiti as a kid and stuff like that, and I met artists that were I do it here in the city, and these older people would come out and say, you did this and stuff. And they were students of like SF, the schools out there. They were art students, and they couldn't draw or paint.
Man.
And as a Mexicano, poor person, it's not like my parents put me to college. I knew that if I was going to I didn't have the the luxury of being able to go to art school and to come out and just to be able to write and talk about it. I had to show and prove, and I told myself, if I'm going to pay money and do all this stuff, I want to have some skills when I come out. I want to have something that you can show, because I can't just have a theory in my head and do a job. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I knew that if I'm going to pay for, I'm going to come out with some real, whether you guys like them or they're out of style or out of vogue.
Right.
I want to have some tangible skills when I come out of the pub. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's
Right.
part of a lot of these students have graduated from schools because they can't draw with the shit, they can't paint with the shit, but they can talk about this shit. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's what they're good at. Talking about it. There's more words than there is action to the kind of stuff that they do. Yeah, and I think that you paid all that money to school. What was the point? You know what I mean, really, just so you can. I thought we were making art. If that, you know what I mean? So that was another reason why I wanted to focus on having some real tangible skills that I can take with me, regardless of if I was in the circle of art world or not. You know, I could actually show and prove something. You know.
Yeah.
Frankie, what generation are you?
What do you mean?
Like, are your parents from Mexico? Are your parents from Mexico?
Okay, I'm a weird mix of things. So my dad is from Chihuahua, Mexico. He immigrated over here when he was 14. On my mother's side, so my mother was born here, but my grandmother, her mother was from Mexico, but my grandfather was a Native American Indian from California. They've always been Californians. So I'm darkest, and my dad's I'm the darkest one in my my color.
So your grandfather's Mexican.
From California, right? But they spoke
1849.
English and Spanish fluently. They were Native Americans who spoke English and Spanish fluently. Right. But gung ho Americans. My grandfather fought World War II. My great grandfather fought World War I. Americans, bro, but dark Indians. You know what I'm saying? So I had this weird mix of, and he was born and raised here. You know what I mean? My grandfather, and so I had this weird mix. I had experience of having, my a straight immigrant first generation. Then I had my mother who was born here. Then I had, you know what I'm saying? So I have this weird combination of, as far as being a Mexican American. I'm not from Mexico. I'm not necessarily from Mexico, but we're still Mexican.
Yeah,
what about you, Sergio?
From California.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. Both my parents were originally immigrants, and my mom's from Guadalajara, Mexico.
Yeah, mine too.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
And
Jalisco. Hey, what's up?
Jalisco is the city, right?
No, Jalisco is the state.
There's a state and a city.
Guadalajara is the city.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. And then my dad's from San Isidro.
Where?
I think.
Oh, San Isidro.
San Isidro.
Yeah. Okay.
But both immigrants. But what I was going to touch on, Frankie, is that I don't know if it's, my folks are working class and they come from Mexico, right? My mom's side of the family, we worked on the trains. The family worked with their train people.
Right.
So so they were conductors, and that was the family. My great grandfather was a Spaniard. My great grandmother, his wife, was much younger, maybe like 30 years younger, very young. She was in India.
Right.
So she's in India. So anyhow, but there's an aspect. There's this appreciation, this respect for working class labor. And this is my own assumption of why we love technique, and we appreciate and we respect understanding a craft. Is that masons, trained people, builders, construction, that sort of thing aspect of it. I think that it still allows us to sort of have a link to that type of work. And even in art, I think understanding a technique and a material to the point of mastery is something to identify with. But that's my own theory. I don't know if that's true, but
it's funny that you say that though, because my mother died when I was young. My father was from Mexico. My mother put in my head, "You're going to go to college," blah blah blah. My dad had that. No, he was just working. He didn't know what was going on with my education. And I remember bringing up one day, when I go to college, and he looked at me, bro. He goes, "Colegio, vas a trabajar, cabrón." And that tripped me out, boy. This was not going to college. Even to this day, my and he didn't pay for me to go to school. I did all this, for what I do for a living, he doesn't see it as work. He doesn't respect it as work. But he does. But I wouldn't have been able to do the things I did if I didn't have that work ethic for my. Because I've got to bust my ass to do it more than that, right there. But he doesn't see it as work because I'm not breaking my back, basically.
Right.
So, but I still knew that I had to work hard. I still had. If it wasn't for that, aspect, I still knew that I wouldn't. You can't be a lazy artist, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, unless you're not drawing a painting.
It's an oxymoron, right? Yeah. It's an oxymoron.
Right. And what I found too in art school, man, what I thought was real interesting, man, was that a lot of these kids that were there they were there because they had money, their parents, and they had to go to college, and they didn't want to go to college. So what do? They get in the art department, right? But they're not serious about it. They're not trying to. Well, they don't even have maybe even a real talent but it's just a way for them to fuck off their parents' money, right? And say that, hey, I graduated from college. And I realized, dude, that was the majority of art students at these certain schools as well.
Serious money, right? Like there's some people with some serious money connections in college, man. That was a trip to me. Like I was like, what? Like it just this, it doesn't compute, man. Like some of those people, where they come from, how fucking rich they are.
Yeah.
It's just like, what? Really? Like,
bro,
wow.
I didn't realize how poor I was until I got to the New York Academy of Art. But then I realized how lucky I was, bro, too, to even be in there. I realized that because it was private school, right? They all came from fucking money. These were rich kids. It's a luxury to send your kids to art school. It's always been. Either you were a rich person that had the money, or you were a family that was in the arts. Those were the people that got to study art. They had that luxury to study art. But I realized that just me being there was a luxury that these people really weren't appreciating. They just had the money to be there.
Frankie, I remember pretty vividly some of the times where I went to visit because Alex, my wife, was in the same program with Frankie. That's how we met.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
My girlfriend at the time, who was taking the product, who was in the college, and seeing some of your work, and then Hataya talking about it as well. Dude, you were fucking good. You were good.
Really? I felt like I was.
That's why you were in there. There's a uniqueness to the way you work, and you were able to do it. There was a lot of people, and basically, within the academy, they learn there's a standard of how to do something. You do it, Right. But I remember sitting and going in a couple classes and identifying yours and going like, that's some shit right there. Like that, this. Like there's something here, like there's a virtuoso quality to this. But you weren't there on accident, Frankie. From my view.
Thank you. It's funny you say that, man, because there were so many good people out there, man, that I was, the teachers, the artists, and I really kind of felt like, oh shit, I ain't shit. I thought, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I kind of had a weird experience at that college. It was awesome, and there was a lot of shit that happened as well while I was there, man. A lot of bullshit.
That's in everything, yeah.
And I think it really has to, looking back at it, it really has to do being vocal, being brown, and being poor. I think that turns some of the faculty and other people, you know what I mean? So I experienced some bullshit while I was out there. But the experience that I've had, I wouldn't trade it in for the world.
Yeah, it's nothing different from anything worse that you've experienced, I'm sure. But I think from my understanding, man, is grad school is just a fucking if it's not a bad experience, it's not an experience.
I think it definitely was a good one.
Well, but there's good.
But it took me a while to get my shit together too, just because of finances. I came out of grad school and I told myself I'm not going to get a real job unless it's some kind of a art-related thing, man. And I paid a price for that, but because I knew if I got into something where I was making good money, I'd probably just give up what I was doing. Because you get used to the money. Right. And I go, I'm going to have to and I made sacrifices and I wasn't able to kind of develop myself as an artist as much as I would have liked to. I got a lot more skills being a professor for 9 years. I mean, you become the A, you know what I mean? That really helped me it took all what I had learned and forced me to kind of put it all together and that really made me good. So I believe that teaching was part of was really part of my education process as well. It's funny, man, because, I got laid. I was there for 9 years. I was trying to get full-time jobs everywhere. I couldn't get. I was there for 9 years, and I was the last one at the cut off because of California cutback. I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to do for money. Oh, shit. And I go, well, I better start practicing what I preach. So I just started making work for the fun of it. I wasn't even going to try to show. We're going to hang it at my friend's restaurant. And that 1 year, I created most of the work that I'm known for. And that 1 year, because I didn't have to work, because I was getting unemployment, basically. If that didn't happen, dude, you wouldn't, I wouldn't be known for the person that I am today. So that bad thing became a good thing. And I was actually come back to that college after I moved here to the city. And I thought about it for a while, part-time again. And I go, you know what, man? I'm good. And what I realized was that I had learned everything I could learn as a teacher there. There was no more for me to learn. I had taught everything that was there. I was done with the driving, and I was like, the commuting right from Modesto and forth. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm doing it. This is why I didn't go to school to become a teacher. That was like the fallback. I went to school to become an artist. And that desperation is what really started to make me move in the proper direction. I honestly think if I was still working there part-time, I would still be that part-time, not making quite enough money to pay for my bills. I got to do this and that, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't have been who I am. So it turned into a good thing for me. And I don't know what the second point is, but that's no, but
Sergio, let me ask you a question, Sergio. Sorry, my bad. But let me ask you, I've seen your artwork and it's really, really, it's dope. Your art is really nice.
You're one of my favorite artists, Sergio. You really are.
Yeah, he said that many times, by the way. And that's how I was like, we got to get him on the show, right?
Yeah, and you know why, bro? I got these technical skills, whatever, but they're binding in a way. You know what I mean? They kind of hold me. And when I look at your shit, you have all that stuff that's necessary, and you're not overdoing. There's a freedom to what you do. And I look at yours. I look at mine. God damn it, this guy. It's just better. You know what I mean?
Oh,
no matter how good technically I get, your work is just gonna be powerful. You know what I mean?
So I mean, there's your artwork to me. It's like I see a lot of Frida, a lot of Diego. It's like I see that in your painting. Do you look up to them? Like when
yeah, man. Those are I if I had to choose between the two, Frida is one of my.
Frida's amazing. Yeah.
I love her. I've actually held one of her pieces in my hand. In New York City. I had a gallery after grad school in Boston, and so one of the ladies who collected my work on the East Coast collected. She was a trader at the time, and she had a Frida. She had who's the female? Frankie, you might know. What's her name? Leonora Carrington, female surrealist who lives in Mexico City.
Oh yeah, I do know exactly.
Wow.
She had a bunch of her work, but she collected. Yeah, she's amazing. But she had a bunch of Leonora Carringtons that she had just acquired because she was a big fan. She had a Frida, and I fucking picked it up, and I was like, "What? Like, this is not real, man." But
There's an honesty to her work. There's an honesty to her work that's undeniable, and I see the same thing in your work as well.
It's really, it speaks to you.
Another thing I like about your work, it's like political. It talks about like what's it's art in that way, but you also make it about yourself. You connect with there's a domestic quality about the work, so it like connects your life right at home or whatever to these bigger things out there in the world, right? And that's one of the things I always thought was cool about the work that you do.
Thanks, man. I think that identified with Frida and how she could turn she was able to project who she was without any remorse and without any filter. And I think that she was super brave. In her work, and at the same time, is quite grotesque in a Mexican way, man. Like the Mexican magazines. You're gonna get the blood and the brains.
Oh yeah.
But those beautiful things, I find beautiful things that she was able to put forth. Diego, I was a virtuoso. I love his work. I love his murals. Yeah. But being from Guadalajara, I was able to see Orozco's murals, the seven faces. Have you ever seen those?
I've seen a couple, but not the big one, not the main ones.
Yeah, I mean, and at the same time in Los Angeles, when I was growing up as a kid, I would see there's a famous group of muralists. Frankie, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're called the streetscapers. So it was Los Angeles Streetscapers, and you could get a book on those guys. But they were doing, it used to be Brooklyn Avenue. It's now Cesar Chavez Avenue. But you could see all the murals that they would do. And there was Los Angeles Streetscapers, and there was like seven people within that crew. But those murals, I was the first time I experienced Diego Rivera, because Diego Rivera and Orozco, because when I went to Guadalajara as maybe almost in my 20s, I realized, oh shit, I get this. This is from the Streetscapers. That's what they're getting it from. And I'm like, oh shit, it all fucking makes sense. But no, man, that's the stuff that I was first like, going to the doctor, holding my mom's hand, going to the doctor on the bus, and then hitting those girls and going, what the fuck? Right? Like, what is this? Yeah.
I didn't get any of that. And I think, but that was like, I didn't even know who Picasso was until I was in my 20s, bro.
Really?
Or all these names, Andy Warhol. I didn't know any of those names until I was already older. But I was so in love with art. I think it ended up being a good thing because I wanted to absorb all of it already in my 20s. So, you know what I mean? It was like brand new, as opposed to like, I see young kids going fresh out of high school to college, and they just understand it. They just know who these people are. But I think it's like, oh yeah, we know who it is, and they kind of move on. But for me, because I was exposed to it at an older age, I fell in love with it at an older age, and I was able to I wanted to absorb it all. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, oh, that's Picasso, that's Rembrandt. So I think it worked in my favor in that way.
Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was gonna ask you. So is art your primary job? Is that your occupation?
No, I'm an educator. Whenever I have to say occupation, I say I'm educator. No, I have a job. Educator. But fortunately for me, it's always connected. Like they inform each other.
You're teaching art.
Yeah, I'm teaching art, and I'm teaching what I do in the studio and what I know.
Right. I think like all artists are natural teachers because we're always passing it on.
Yeah, so as they should.
It's still the art field. It's still the art world.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be one. I like Frankie's saying, being a teacher, you're practicing that foundation constantly. And that's a fucking great thing because you'll be in the studio and going like, "Fuck, I know what I'm doing." Right? Like there's a confidence in it, So yeah, man. I'm fortunate enough to be an educator, and I think that there's a time where people, and I heard this from the teachers who taught. It's like if you're teaching, you're not doing. It's like that's not true. It's not true, especially to working class folks. It's like working class folks. It's like. We're there's a point to, this is how I feel. In my mid-40s now, I feel like I have to contribute. I have to give back something for the little, for whatever it is I got to give back something. And through education, trying to pull up some of these kids, at least trying to be visible for them to go like, hey, you should be able to do this and even better, is an aspect that I think is really, really important, so that we can get a fucking wing in the museum, so that for us at Los Angeles County Museum of Art, we have a Chicano artist in the front, not just an artist from somewhere else who's in a fucking art history book. Or at SF MoMA, there's a Chicano artist in the front. There's a fucking Franco mural in the front.
Can't wait.
MoMA. That's what we have to get to the next. That's the next level, because it's time. Again, I can pick up a rock, I can throw it, and I can hit a Chicano from Los Angeles. Why don't we have Chicano artists in major museums where they're representing the city that they live in? Because we're here, man. We're here. Stop ignoring us.
It's also, I feel like it's our responsibility as artists and educators just as artists to educate people as well. Like you got to educate your audience too.
Right.
I mean, it's not simply just making it. Sometimes I feel like a lot of it's also educating. This is also so that they understand and appreciate more. It's part of my job, I feel like, as well, is just so that these people know, teaching them. And the more we do that, the more we're giving it out there, and the more people can understand, and we get that kind of exposure that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
It's part of the job as well. My responsibility. That's the way I feel. But going back to teaching real quick. there is a danger. I don't see that with you, but there is a danger in teaching, especially at a junior college level or community college level, that you're always teaching the fundamentals. You know what I'm saying? So you never quite ever start talking about these other topics. So what happens to a lot of art teachers is they get stuck there because they're going over the fundamentals over, and they're really good at it, but they're just down here on this level and never really
progressing.
And then they get comfortable, man. Money, the money's there. They don't got to, they kind of lose the drive to express themselves or say what they got to say. I feel like as well too.
Do you think you fall into that, Sergio? Do you feel like what Frankie just said is like you fall into just doing this, repeating the same thing over and over again, and then just staying there, plateauing there?
No. I mean, in the studio wise, no, I don't feel like that.
Because you continue to work outside of school, so you just continue to perfect your art, right? I'm assuming.
I like to think that I can't paint the way I painted 20 years ago. I can't do it anymore. It doesn't. I can't be that person anymore. I've changed. So there's a new formula for who I am as it progresses, as an artist, as an educator, as a fucking a person who's going through a pandemic or somebody who has to get over Trump being in office. This all changes me. This all is a direct. It has to influence what I do. It has to. So I have to. There's a part of me that has to open up and allow that to filter through, and then
I've seen your classes and what you guys are doing with your students, and what I like about it is you're not just focusing on, hey, this is how we make a print. You're actually creating art in a way. You're helping them find how to express themselves along with how to do it. Which I notice about what you guys do in your class, that they're actually, and you guys do a lot of cool stuff. But you're not only learning how to make, but you're also discussing, what you want to express and other things. You can see it all over the stuff you guys are doing.
Yeah, there's an aspect in the art where it is fundamentals, and it can feel like the same thing. But depending on the student, there's some students you can't teach a person to be an artist.
Of course.
They just are. Like some people, you give them those tools to go, like, hey, these are fundamentals, go do it, and they fucking, it's like skyrockets. It's like 4th of July. It's like, what? Hey, chill out, right? It's like you just can't help. Though they can't help it. That it's what they're gonna do. You can't stop them either. But then there's those ones who are very academic. They're like, what should I do to make money, sir? And what should I, it's like, and you sort of try to guide them as well. You guide them as well and go, okay, well, I guess, you want to make money, maybe go to business, let's get out of the art.
I tell people all the time, look, if I was trying to get rich, I would have not gotten into the art world.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a way to, there's always that opening. We can become millionaires and all that, but that's not why I got in the game. Because if I wanted to make money, I would have done something else.
Right.
And I knew because it's, I knew it was going to be a struggle either way.
There's something about it that is just about it's about catharsis. It's about trying having a voice. Go ahead.
I feel a true artist, a real artist like me, like if I'm not creating or making, I'm going to get sick. Something's going to happen. I will become unhealthy if I'm not making something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
I'm depressed. So I'm going to be making it no matter what. One of the struggles that I've had, it's not to find out to balance that world, like the financial world with being able to get that fun. But I still will have to be doing it no matter what. I'm going to do it.
Right.
I call it a curse. It's a curse.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, there's that saying, there's idle hands. I forget the rest of the saying. Idle hands, do sinful stuff.
The devil's tongue is the devil's tool. Idle hands are the devil's tool. Like
yeah. But yeah, man, I agree, Frank. If I'm not doing this, I'm not happy. When I was
younger, man, I would get like depressed, and I didn't know why. And I'd be like, what's wrong with me, man? And then I would just like a week would go by, and then I'd just start sketching. This is when I was young. I just start drawing, and then I would feel hella good. And then I'd be like, oh no shit, that's why I'm depressed. I'm not drawing. You know what I mean? Or I'm not making something. And it really is that, man. And not all of that. I think a lot of us artists, man, and musicians or whatever, or just people who do interesting things, we kind of have a fucked up psyche. Something has happened, it's stress and trauma or whatever the fuck is there. And with that, without art, man, I don't know what the fuck. I probably would have went crazy. I would have just been doing stupid shit. You know what I mean? I feel really blessed to have at least that outlet. People who don't have outlets for their depression and all that, I kind of feel sorry for them. And I keep telling one of the beautiful things that I love about art is that you can take all the things that are ugly in the world, right? Those feelings, the pain, and to turn that and transform those feelings into something beautiful, man, like art, and something that's worth money, like gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite things about art is that we can transform these negative. It's a beautiful thing to be able to transform these negative emotions that instead of being an asshole to everybody because you were treated like an asshole, you take that ugliness that other people give you and you turn it into something beautiful. I don't think there's anything higher or more honorable than that as well. You know.
Yeah, I agree, Frank. And just on the other side, like, if you ever go to a museum or if you go somewhere where you experience an artwork, and probably one of the first places I think I experienced artwork was at the scary churches that I used to go to as a Catholic.
Right.
As a Catholic, but you see the stained glass windows and go like, there's something scary and there's something otherworldly. There's something that's communicating to me in that I can't stop looking at, And not until I went to a museum that I realized, wow, there's something that what Frankie's talking about elevating me. There's something about this, and it's free. You're not having to pay. It's not a secret. It's just this weird exchange, and art does that. And if you're on the side. Go ahead, Frank.
Go ahead. I find it, I find this very interesting as well. Based on the cathedrals and churches and stuff. What do they got in there? They got art on the walls, right? They got beautiful architecture, right? There's music in there. It's literally that they had to evoke God. They had to bring in the artist, right? There's art, there's music, there's architecture,
culture,
there's poetry. So if you want to get close to the divine, who's doing that? It's because it's all artificial, right? God didn't make those buildings. The artist did, right? So that to me, that was a profound thought that the artists are actually kind of a connection to the divine, right? To that higher. We're a conduit. They didn't hire some other dude to do it or a priest to do it. You know what I mean? They found Michelangelo, whoever the hell they wanted, to evoke God. You know what I mean? Or the divine, or whatever that
or to keep. I was going to say to keep you out of the cookie jar. That little picture of Jesus in the hallway.
Right.
Like, in the middle of the night, keep you away from that damn cookie jar.
and museums have the same kind of effect with me too. It's like you said, because museums they're called museums. Muse means to inspire. Inspire comes from the word inspirito, which means to breathe in the divine, in spirit of the divine. That's what inspiration is. And so you go to a museum to be inspired, right? Because you're connecting to some kind of divine thing. I mean, they're not going to say that at a museum, but it's the same kind of thing. You're going to get that same feeling of that transcendent when you're in those places as well, just like when you're in a cathedral or anything else. So I think the power of the artist is deeper and stronger than most people give us credit for.
I think so too, man. I agree.
Yeah. But I'll keep talking shit and blowing up, and I can like other shit. Keeps me motivated, man. Someone's got to do it.
You got to keep doing it, man.
So you're an educator, right? Do you learn off your students, or you just?
Oh yeah,
teach?
Man.
Yeah.
It's humbling. You realize that you don't know as much as you think. Especially when technology and time is moving forward. Like.
Oh yeah.
The kids. I say kids, but they're like 20. But whatever's up now, what's interesting, how to do something. It's like they know it all. If you don't have a dialogue with your students, you don't. You're not learning. Of course, I'm there to impart some information that's been known, but it's like, hey, what are you guys watching on Netflix? Check out this animation, Go ahead, Frank.
My classes were really structured, but I used to have a sketchbook that they had to work in to be creative in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I would get sketchbooks at the every so often to look at them, correct them, or whatever. And it was interesting to see all the trends that were coming out as the years went by. First kids were drawing one thing, then they're drawing anime, then it's Pokemon, then it's this. And you could see the trends coming in from the youth just by looking at the kind of stuff they were just sketching out their mind. I always thought that was interesting. I was learning this kind of, what was in that for these kids by what they were just drawing, what they were into.
Right.
You gotta learn from everybody, man. Like as an artist, man, I learn from everybody. I learn from idiots, I learn from smart people, I learn from kids. You gotta just learn from anywhere you can pick it. You gotta always be, picking up picking up information. But there's always something to learn from someone.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I think you constantly have to have your mind open to change. Though I'm guilty of being a bit stubborn about certain shit. But I do understand that knowledge is king, man, at every level. So hopefully
if you're truly knowledgeable, you have to have that. It's an attitude that you have to carry by yourself. You can't be like, oh, so and so said it, so I'm gonna. You know what I mean? That's stupid. Or that doesn't mean. If you're a really person who craves knowledge and understanding, you will learn that you're gonna find it everywhere, man. And because everybody's experience is different, there's always gonna be something you go through. And I try to keep that attitude going alive in everything I do. I try to stay humble, I guess, so I don't get stuck. You know what I mean? So I don't get locked into this dogma in my head. You know what I mean? I like to question everything so that I can keep. And I feel like art is like that. It's a real spiritual kind of growth thing. If you're not, the moment that you change your attitude and stop wanting to grow anything, you're stuck. You know what I mean? The next guy's going to come pass you up. It's a lifelong thing.
Yeah, it could very easily become a convention, to become conventional. And I mean, there's people, I think ignorance is bliss as well on the other side. So, but, at this point, I've been affected. So I know that if I'm not learning, it's got to continue. I'm stale. It's going to be stale.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard little line to balance your ego and your intellectual arrogance and thinking and I always go back to Socrates, when they went to the oracle and they said that Socrates was the most intelligent man in all of Athens, or where the hell he was at, and then they told him about it, and he goes, he just laughed. He goes, if that thing is right, it's only because I know that I don't know. And that's the foundation of the Western world, man, right there. And so I always go back to that, like, you gotta be humble and open. Smart motherfuckers know they're not smart. And people get caught up when you think you know and you get a rank or position, and then you want to hold on to that, and then you get stuck because you're blocking yourself from actually being able to learn new things and new understanding. So it's something that I've always had to, check myself. I stay humble, and just trying to stay as open as I can. And I question my own fucking questions, you know what I mean? Which could be bad if you do it too much. But I try not to act like I'm the fucking ultimate source of fucking, and I keep learning. I've learned a lot more since then because of that kind of stuff. Just advice to all the guys out there or people who want to fucking learn something. Truly learn something.
Absolutely.
So, brother, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just wanted to acknowledge that I wanted to thank you for letting Eric Almanza go first. Because I know he's listening to this right now. And, just I told you, hey, please let Eric go first so that he doesn't feel bad. Let him go first because, he's the little brother. He's the chief. He's from outside Los Angeles. He's like, where the hell is Eric from, by the way, man? That's what I want to know. Do you know, Frankie?
Palos Verdes.
Palos Verdes. Man, have you been there?
That's where the rich people live, right?
You know how you can die in Palos Verdes?
Wait, I could be wrong. It's where the rich people live.
I think you're right. You know how you can die in Palos Verdes? You fall off a cliff. You fall off a cliff, and you land into a bunch of flowers.
Oh,
right?
shit!
And
Beautiful.
they're poison, but they're poisonous if you're working class.
Nice.
That's how you die.
I think that's what it's called. I went to his house one time. No, but it's funny that you said that with Eric because I knew I could get Eric. I asked you first. I figured you were busier, so I was like, I'm gonna get him first, and then I'm gonna tell Eric to come. Because I felt like I had to lock you in first, and then I go, okay, then I'm gonna get Eric to fucking come on first. Because I felt he was in a good.
Like I said, we should do a show with all four of us. If that's cool with you guys, I think that would be awesome.
What I appreciate from Eric is, this is post understanding that I'm a Chicano or a Latinx, artist. This is understanding who I am in the context of this space, and being, I'm cynical, man. Being from Los Angeles, I'm cynical. I'm a little bit bitter about certain situations politically, and so my attitude towards that is kind of like, really. And meeting Eric, his attitude was not. He wanted to be a Chicano, right? It's like in the beginning, I was like, I'm a fucking Chicano. That's what I got. That's what I got to deal with, right? But you know, of course, there's pride and Mexican, right? But in an aspect of it, it's like fuck, like you know, like you guys, we're fighting with you guys, and you know, we got this dipshit in the Oval Office talking shit to us right off the bat, and
right off the bat,
perpetuating shit. You know, but you know, Eric's attitude towards being a Chicano, I found that to be a much more refreshing because I think he wants to be. There's a pride in it. And whatever I've shown with him or done stuff with Eric, I think it balances all that stuff out and makes me feel like we're doing this for the reasons the reason we talked about.
That's cool.
It's funny that you say that, man. So when I was hanging out with Eric after he had just graduated, right, from grad school, and I was going through the same questioning as well. I mean, I consider myself a Chicano artist, but I wasn't using it I wasn't claiming it hella hard. And I talked to some artists here in that staff, and they were making, and I would say, what do you consider yourself? They were like, nah, I think being a Chicano is limiting. So I kind of like, well, is it, man? I don't know. And but you know, thinking about all that stuff, and then I just started talking to artists, and it's funny because I mean to Eric, and I go, Eric, what do you think about do you call? I was asking these Mexican artists, do you consider yourself? And he broke it down, bro, and said, and I go, that's it. I'm a fucking Chicano artist. He's the one that made me like finally like, fuck it, you're all the way. You know what I mean? I have to be proud of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think that's funny.
That's cool.
So he inspired the both of us, and he articulated it in a very interesting way too, to convince me, you know? and his enthusiasm for it, you know.
Yeah. So Palos Verdes does have some, you know, some good qualities aspects.
yeah, he was probably one of the few Mexicans out there, you know, him and his brothers, him and his bros. Yeah, but you know what? I think that also him being, say, more privileged than others, you know, Mexican. I think that, and he's got the heart of a Mexicano, right? I think that when you're you want it more. You know what I mean? You want it more. It's like I don't know if you guys know white people who love Mexico, want to be Mexican. They're fucking more Mexican than the Mexicans. If you've met these people, they love it more than we do.
That's right.
I like salsa too, but goddamn, you know? And so I think there's a little bit of that. I think there's a little bit of that because Eric probably feels like there's more of a need for him to connect.
Yeah,
and he probably gets fucked with all the time too. You know what I mean? And so that inspired me too. His wanting to connect.
That's cool.
You know, and I've met Chicanos from outside of the States.
Yeah.
You know, Mexican, Canadian.
Right.
Yeah. And
okay. Yeah, all right. That makes sense. I mean,
and so Alex, you were saying like there's like, you know, there's Japanese Chicanos, but there's people who are pretending to be Chicanos. Like they're sort of like
they're not
culture.
Right.
They're not, or in Thailand they have a lowrider culture. They're appreciating culture. But we're talking about Mexicans that are born in Canada. It's like how, and so if we're talking about removed from the identity, because the identity is in California, really. I mean, if we talk about it, man, that's the identity. That if we had like a fucking stone that gave us energy, it'd be located in California, right?
Oh, for sure.
And
that's
so
fun, baby.
I you know, I've met some people. It's like it's a trip, man, because they're removed from that aspect, and they kind of think of the things that we think about in an odder way, man. It's almost like it's like going to Comic-Con. Oh yeah, we were just like, you know, it's a trip, man. It's like it's a really it's a trip.
I got an interesting story, man. So I got tired of people calling me, like asking me if I was a Chicano artist, right? And the one day, the way I dealt with this, I go, you know what, man, I'm tired of this shit. I'm gonna do this one mural at my friend's restaurant. You know, just do whatever you want. I went to the Chicano Studies Library in San Jose. It just opened, just hung out there for like a week, man. Just you know, just sucking in imagery, right? And I was all over the place, man. I appreciated all types. I didn't know which way to go, to tell you the truth. And so I go, I'm going to do this one goddamn mural. If anybody wants to ask me about my thing, you can go look at that thing, right? And so I painted the thing. Then I got a bunch of commissions after that, based off of that mural, right? Similar. Then I had a body of work, right? I go, well, I got a theme now. I guess I'm going to try to go sell it at this festival or whatever, see what happens, right? Because the work was Day of the Dead commission, right? And I went out there, and I didn't think I was going to make it. I made a bunch of dough, man. And I was like, holy shit. And I didn't want to be that guy. I was telling you, I didn't want to be the Chicano dude, right? And then I looked, and I seen, what I realized, dude, is that we don't want to stimulate. We don't want to stimulate. And we know what's right. We know what cut Mexican. But we don't want to sell it, most of us. And so we're dying for this culture, for our own culture. And I realized, like, oh, these people love it because they can connect their feelings of this kind of stuff. We need it, you know what I mean? And I just looked after I got paid and everything. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be this guy. Fuck it. And then I started to re-educate myself. I had to learn more about culture. And I mean, I was lucky enough that I had enough knowledge from my father and everybody, but I had to become an expert on our culture and represent that. And it's grown, you know, I've learned more about us and our folks, but there's a need for people like us, you know, for like you said, those people in Canada need Chicano culture, not necessarily Mexico, they need this kind of stuff. And I realized this is the role that I can fill, and the lane. And there was a need there. And so that was for me, based off of what you said right there. I think that was a reason, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. You know, yeah, I mean, and it's not that like I think that I'm existing or making stuff for those people, but it's interesting when you understand who you are. And I don't think that everybody has an understanding of who they are, and that's troubling, you know. Art and painting and whatever sort of study has allowed me to do that better. I think feel a confidence in who I am, what I do, and that's a reason to do it. You know, that's a reason to have an interest in telling a story. You know, or just like I'm sure you've met people who are apologetic too much, right? Their existence is too apologetic. Well, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm just, like, why do you have to live like you're apologetic about everything? There's no reason. You exist. There's reason.
That's awesome.
There's reason, you know? Like, there's no reason. Like, we have the confidence, have the voice, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, like, people can be dipshits and assholes on either side politically, and that's not what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is, like, you have the confidence to be who you are because you know that you belong, and that's a gift, man. Not everybody understands that.
And with that said, most of my customers are not Mexican American. It trips me out how widespread my audience is, you know, or collectors are, right? Mexican from Mexico are probably the least likely to buy my work because I think they're Mexicano. They ain't trying to spend money on some art. That's the reason. But I've been lucky in that way. But I think what you're saying, you're saying about that confidence and so it's also nice to have an audience. Like, so once I knew that I had a real audience, it inspires you to make more. Right? Because now, you know, people are watching. You're communicating to somebody now. It's not like you're sitting at home jerking off. You know what I mean? And that also, having that audience, like you were saying, like not being unapologetic or whatever, it really helped it inspired me to make more and to continue doing what I did. It gave me a role. We were talking about. Gave me a role. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, more or less, and that was all I needed to really take off. You know.
Absolutely. I'd like to see what I really love is I love seeing more like Chicana artists, you know, with the same sort of.
Well, they're out here.
I think that's an aspect of our culture that needs to be in the forefront a little bit more. You know, it's always I love seeing like there's a lot. I think female skaters are more prominent, you know, in skate culture. You know, when you see them, there's as far as pros are concerned, and some are Latinas, you know, and so that aspect of it, and I think that it sort of if I think that I'm, you know, when I was a kid, didn't have a vision or didn't have something that symbolized and represented it. I think that on both ends of the spectrum, both male and female, more of that. So what I was going to say is Chicanillo needs a female Chicana in our group, man. You know,
I know we're so goddamn male centric. I you know, curated little shows and stuff like that. I don't even realize that I didn't have enough girls in these shows, man. But it's not because I don't like them or it's just that I don't know, man. I hang out with dudes. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I caught myself, man, and I went out and just started looking for female artists, man. And the more I could find, the better, man. It's never quite enough, man. But I after that because I didn't just more sensitive, you know. But I don't feel guilty about it. Not doing because I'm not doing it intentionally. But at the same time, we got to make sure. But I think out here, man, I see it, man. There's a lot of them, man. There's a lot of this little generation, young Latino artists, man, who are making art and want to draw. I also feel like it's in our blood, also, bro. Like I feel that you know, some races like me are better at me. We have like this visual inclination. I saw it as a teacher, man. When I was teaching, you get them all, right? You know, and I would see them. Something about the Mexicano kids, they would just draw more so than maybe not as good, but they would just there's just something in it. You know, I always thought that, you know, it's because we're raised Catholic and our Christ bleeds. You know, he's, you know, I mean, it's graphic. You know what I'm saying? And that could be a truth to that. And so, but I would catch him, and there's something about me. I mean, it wasn't all models, but I had, you know, thousands. You know, you get a consensus of like versus man, my Asian kids, man, those suckers could draw, bro. You know, they would learn quick. And like that, but they would they had no interest in being an artist. And they're badass, but had no interest in becoming an artist later on, as opposed to like the Latinos who thought of it as a career option. You know? So you definitely got to contest with that, because I think it's in our blood too. It's in our DNA, man, to make it. I mean, look at the Aztecs, bro. Look at all the art and the minds and all that shit that came out of that. I think it's a natural. We have a natural artisan type of way about it, visual way about it. And I think that's why we have our own movement as well.
Yeah. Hey, Sergio, let me ask you, how are you dealing with this pandemic? Like, what are you doing during the pandemic? Because I know you're teaching, so are you doing that online thing, or how's that working with art?
As far as the teaching, yeah, it's online, so I'm at home, which is you know, as problematic as it is, but you know, fortunately, I'm able to do it, which is awesome. You know, to have. I mean, I have a sense of to have a job, man. You know, during the pandemic, it really sucks for people who are like, well, I got to go to work. Like, when is this going to be over?
Yeah.
Or you know, student. I talked to a student right now who, you know, through the online, and he said, "Hey, professor, I have to apologize." I was like, "What for?" He's like, "I've been at work when you were doing this." I was like, "What?" So he's working 2 jobs, man, 2 jobs, and he was at a Radio Shack at the time, and then he makes sushi, and then he's trying to go to school. And I'm like, wow. I was like, well, let's figure it out, man. We'll make it work, you know. So you know, people are trying to get their things done and still go to school, and that's really motivating, you know. The fact that
that is.
And as far as work is concerned, you know, it's been a little tougher to make work, but at the same time, I've been distracted by making my studio. So
you got a new studio.
I got a new studio. So
what's that like? Is it? Did you move, or are you in the same place?
We bought a house about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. I'm not sure, something like that. Maybe 2 or 3. I think 2016. But at the same time, when we bought the house, my wife's father passed away right after, and then a year ago, my mom got really, really ill. She was going to die, and fortunately, she's not. Knock on wood, we still got her. But all that sort of overlapped with everything, and I was just like, holy shit. So some of the house stuff got put on hold, and then we bought a fixer upper, and we've been fixing it up. Recently, during this pandemic, I had scheduled to have some people come help me build the studio and it just worked out during this time. So that's what had happened, and so you know, I've been hands on with that and in designing it, the floor, the interior, doing that, and then I've been laying tile or actually brick and laying concrete. So I've been busy doing that. I've been busy doing that around the studio, cleaning things up. At the same time, trying to make them work, but I haven't started any paintings, and I think that the pandemic really fucked me up.
Yeah.
I was just affected. It affected me in a way that it was hard to feel like I'm doing, like I can go back and do what I do normally. You know,
check this out. You're doing what a lot of people are doing. Because myself, I don't have a studio official. I mean, I guess I do, but I've spent a lot of time during this thing, getting this thing streamlined so that I can just work easier. I've been spending a lot of time. I even redid my upper studio. I got a desk in there. I just went through everything and just organized everything just to make everything setting up. A lot of restaurants are doing it. The ones that are doing well, they're also doing a lot of renovations right now, and so I think this is the time to. You're not the only one that's kind of been doing this. I mean, I know that you're also building a studio, but I feel like a lot of people that want to keep it rolling, they've been kind of doing that kind of. I mean,
you have to reinvent yourself is what you have to do.
Yeah, I've been catching up on projects that I just sitting there, man, forever, and I probably never could have gotten to it if it wasn't for this little break we have. But I think that's a very normal. This phase right now is a very. It's like we're getting ready to really go when the social shit is over. That's the way.
For sure.
Yeah. I think that when it first happened, there was some expectations like, oh yeah, I'm going to be at home, I'm going to work, it's going to be crazy, it's going to be, I'm going to make a ton of work because I make a ton of work anyway. But once it hit, and sort of like the adjustments, having sort of like seeing it affect students and getting information from the news, and then having personal problems with family, as I mentioned, it just came to a head, and I was just like, it was really tough to be in the space that is, because some people, I talk to some people and they're like, yeah, I just do what I do, it helps, that's what I do, and I get it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go about my business and go, oh, I'm just gonna like make paintings about Chicanos during a time where fucking African Americans are getting slaughtered in the fucking streets the way they are. And that not affect my psyche, and me go like I have to say something about it in my work or do something. I mean, at the very least, because I'm to be out there, I would love to be out there, but if I'm beat up,
No, you're too old, bro. You got kids. I know. I've been told the same thing. Like, hey, you want to go out there? I go, bro. I don't want to get hit with a rock in the head, bro. I got kids, bro.
I'd be the first one in the paddy wagon, dude. Just like, oh, you got it.
Last thing I needed is a random rock flying, brick flying, and just bah!
Yeah, right. But I mean, it didn't affect me. Maybe it's an exaggeration because it's not affecting me the way it's affecting some other people.
Oh yeah.
I'm lucky for sure.
Right. But as artists, we internalize this shit, and this is our job, is to be working on this shit too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't necessarily got to be on the front lines. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like we do our things our way, and it has an impact. I feel like.
Yeah. Things are bubbling though. Things have been bubbling. Like Frank said, I definitely internalized some things and being introspective about stuff, and things are bubbling. I'm ready to go. But at the same time, for myself, being somebody who's I'm kind of I'm habitual, by nature, and so I've been getting up early in the morning, especially during these hot days over here, and trying to build stuff. And there's certain aspects of the studio that I want to pick up before I get started to do something. And I can feel bubbling and coming, and have that sort of feeling and the urge to make something. I have like some prepped, like panels ready to paint. So it'll happen soon. So, and at the same time, for my own practice, what I do is I spend time either drawing or printmaking. I do monotype. It's just a very niche way, and it's just a way to sort of exercise my mind. So if my mind's going, go make paint, but go make something. But at the same time, in my brain, it hasn't showed up, right? It hasn't showed up. So I have to I was like, that's not ready. So I'm going to go and I'm going to sort of like spend some time. And it's like, I don't know, like Tai Chi or meditating in that way, is what it is, with some other material or doing some other thing before I do it, or prepping. But at the same time, laying brick and laying concrete is meditative, man. I fucking have been loving doing that.
I've been doing yard work, bro.
Yeah.
I've been doing lots of yard work that I haven't done in years. And it's been good. It's been helpful, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I also feel like this stage, like the way I'm looking at it, like sort of with you, I'm kind of setting everything. I feel like I'm resetting to something new. Like I feel like this is something that's. I don't like to talk about, hey, I'm gonna do this, because then that don't ever happen. But I feel like something is, like you said, bubbling, and I feel like a bunch of just been kind of setting up and kind of waiting for this, because I'm trying to reapproach the way I'm doing my work. It's time for something different, not for the sake of it. It's just. It's the perfect reason or the perfect time to do that right now,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Again, in the beginning, I felt like it's like, oh wow, maybe you can have an opportunity to make a shitload of work and work from home, and it's not that at all, man. It's really interesting, But at the same time, it's going to be we're in a different time. It's like the
comedians. I've heard comedians comedians are saying the same thing, that they thought they were going to write and do all this shit, and it's almost like the same kind of damn situation us artists are in. Yeah.
But comedians have it different. They gotta go live with the stage and all that other good stuff.
They still can write and prepare, you know what I mean, the shows and all that stuff.
Yeah, and then what?
That's from what
then they're stuck. No, I get you.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah.
No, I get you. You reinvent yourself. It's what. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's a cocoon stage right now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There you go.
That's a good. Yeah, I like that. Hey Sergio, so where can people find your art? Like, where can they find it?
So I have a website. You could just, or you could Google Sergio Teran Arts or SergioTeran.com. I have two websites. I have an archive, one website that's like old work, and then on that website you can link up to the recent website, which is what's the platform is.
What's your Instagram handle?
It's a Squarespace platform.
Yeah.
And so you can find me on Squarespace. My Instagram is Sergio Teran Arts.
Okay.
So, Sergio Teran Arts, and if you want to delve into sort of the different things, what I like about the recent website is I constantly update it, change it with artwork, put up things that are more experimental. But and Frankie knows I'm on Instagram, and on Instagram I've recently been more process based and putting up things that are immediate. I'm doing like sort of on the fly. Yeah.
That's cool. I'll be for sure to follow. Like I said, I just all I did was Google you and I saw all your artwork. Well, not all your artwork, of course, but most of your artwork, and I'm impressed.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's really good. It's really good.
So, where do you draw most of your inspiration from? You say your work. What does it revolve around in your head? What do you think the constant theme that you think that kind of underlines a lot of what you're doing, the kind of work you're doing? That's a good question.
That's a good question, man. It's been different, I've had a hard time not being influenced by what's happening, because I'm not a political artist, man. I know political artists, and they are really, really informed, and they come from a family of politics. I wouldn't call myself one, but I can't help myself with the administration that we've had in office since 2016. Yeah. With what's happened with our African American brothers and sisters, and what's happening with them, and the culture of violence that it continues to abuse and to murder. I can't help but to address that in my work, man. Right. That sort of stuff. I wish I could go back to a time where I was doing Hopper-like luchadores, sitting at a coffee table, being alone, and that's why I say I would be doing a disservice to the 20 people who will see the work later in the future, if I didn't address what's happening today. And I'm in no means the advocate for these movements in any way, but within my work, it's affecting it, and I need to address it. And that's most recently, Frankie, just to answer your question, that's sort of what the work has been based on. That sort of that dilemma that we're going through. Within it, some of the works that I've been making are always about the lifestyles of Latinx, Mexican Americans, Chicanos from Los Angeles, and the everyday life that they have, which is very American, very normal. To give a sensibility of our people and the people that exist within California, as labeling them as people with integrity and human, so that someday they'll be in a museum and kids can see them and identify themselves with it and say, I can do something other than what crazed fool in the office is saying I can't. Anyway, sorry, that went off on a tangent.
I get questioned a lot about, how come I'm not political in my work. I mean, I make statements here and there. Why is your work? I mean, not right now, but I've been asked this lots of times before, and I want to kind of more. I think I am. I'm more aware now, and my understanding is grown tremendously in the last 4 or 5 years. But I tell people, man, you know what, man? Just painting a fucking brown face on a wall is a statement and you're making a difference. It's a political, right? Even if I just say right, it's a political statement, not on purpose, but in this country, it seemed like that. You know what I mean? So just representation and just showing, like, you know, these areas I'm putting, a lot of they're gentrified areas, and I go, we just need to see more people who look like us. To me, we don't see it enough. A lot of people aren't making it enough. And so just for me, that has been like, that's kind of the way I like let's put us out there. To me, is political stuff.
I think hearing a balada come out of a pickup truck that's driving past on a boulevard is a political act. And until this country accepts it as the norm and not a political act, then we're going to be good. And I can go back to painting luchadores at coffee shops.
Right. That's what I tell people. I can't wait till Trump is out of his office so I can stop thinking about politics. I don't like, I don't like my head stuck in politics. It's not my role. But we're being attacked directly, and fuck this motherfucker. You know what I mean? So he's got, you know, silver lining now. I just hope that I think he's exposed a lot of shit that wasn't denial, and I think he's forcing people like us to kind of get together. And we need to be conscious and aware of what's happening, because if we don't, this is what's going to happen. We're going to get run over, basically. So hopefully that's the positive thing there. And that's some of what we were trying to do with Chicanillo, right? With the shows that we were having that Erica put together, right? It was part of a way to start being a little bit more political. I felt like, at least.
Yeah, but I think
in a way, sorry, go ahead. No. I was going to say, in a way, it's you're right. I think Trump being in office was kind of like a blessing in disguise, because it kind of awakened all of us. It awakened. You know, we were blind. We were blind seeing that, you know, there was racism out there. We were kind of like, oh, you know, we had the, what do they call it? The cloth over our eyes or whatever.
Blinders.
Yeah, we had. So in a way, he kind of like opened up everything and was like, okay, look at all the racism that is there that we all forgot about. Right.
Yeah.
We've always ignored it. What's that?
I think Mexicans and a lot of us, we know it's there. We just deal with it. We don't care. We keep it moving anyways. We don't let it bother us. Like we know but we still keep working. We're here to make our money. It's just the way it is. You know what I mean?
But now it's more blunt. Now it's more.
Well, they can't deny it anymore.
No, you can't. Right. You can't. And I just don't know what's going to happen with all these people that are like open about it, and they're Trumpers. And all of a sudden, when Trump's no longer in office, where are these people going to go? We know who you are. What you know what I mean?
Well, you can't fix a problem until you diagnose it, man. And I think
exactly.
What we're seeing here is we're seeing that there's a sickness in this country, and I think that might be a good thing, that, you know, we can't. If you're denying it like we've been for, you know, the last 100 years or whatever, it's never going to get fixed.
And again, this is bringing people together. If you think about it, it's bringing BLM together. It's bringing the Latinos together. I feel like, you know, it's empowering us with this guy, with this motherfucker in office. Exactly. Enough is enough. You know, resist. The whole resist movement.
And this is America. If we are what we say we are, and we're, you know, I'm talking about tax-paying citizens like myself.
No, for sure.
You know, we should be getting the same fucking, you know, treatment as everybody fucking else. You know,
100%.
We're not. But the problem is systemic, man. There's a fucking, you know, it's the way the system is designed, and we have to do really something to really fucking make that change, man. You know what I mean? Something.
Yeah.
It's happening. The needle's moving. I feel like the needle is moving, man. Just a little bit, but at least it's moving, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
And now we all know who our racist friends are. And
for real.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, man. You know what Facebook has taught me, man? Really, I used to be one of these people who I believe that humanity was people are naturally good and naturally and anybody can learn and shit like that. And I realized, bro, the world is full of dumb fucks. There's way more than fucking that. And matter of fact, the world is made up of dumb fucks. There's less dumb fuckery. I mean, less people are dumb fucks than there are dumb fucks in the world. And that was awakening, because it changed the way how I see the rest of the world. Like, it's not everybody's cool, not everybody's good-hearted, not everybody's and it's probably fucking. You know?
Absolutely.
And so I've learned that, man, too. And it's made me appreciate what, you know, having an education now and being able to know more than you realize how much their education, how much these things matter because they're special. They're not, it's not being put out to the rest of the world because 90% of the population is just ignorant. You know what I mean? Blindly ignorant. You know, and I just think it's like it, but it's definitely. You know,
Right.
But no, I want to say them.
Right.
But I think that's the way, and that's the way the world. That's the way everything is. Only about 10% of shit is any good, right? 10% of the music is probably any good. You know what I mean? And that's what makes it special, right? Only because it's like beauty, right? Beauty is not only beautiful because it's beautiful, but there's so little of it, right? And you know, there's so little beauty. It's very rare and I feel that's true with people who are good-hearted, people who can, people who are intelligent. It's not for everybody, so those things need to be treasured, and appreciated. Well, that's my opinion. I don't know.
Absolutely, man.
No, that's
I just like my Modelo, bro. So, Sergio, man, when did you decide you were going to be an artist, or when did you know you were, or what? Well, were you just always one?
I guess when I went to college, and like in America, you're acknowledged by going to college. So I guess maybe that's what I knew. But I knew that I liked art. I think I was influenced by art. By art, I think Catholicism sort of made me realize that I didn't like Catholic Church. I knew that I don't like things that I fear, but I knew that I liked art, and I think that seeing things that were images made to help us feel God. They made the technique or whatever is on when it was on a lowrider, when it was on a stained glass window, it made me feel different. So I maybe that's when I really sort of understood that there was something about the elevation of art and whatever that was, right? Because again, it's not something you pay for, it's not something you ingest. It's this exchange, this visual, it's intellectual exchange of something that you get that makes you feel like it's an elevator, person or thing. So I guess that's when I understood that I liked art, and I think that's the aspect of it. It's like I like art enough to take it on as a career. It hasn't lost its shine. I still am affected by artwork that I see and artists that make work. So that's really sort of interesting. You can learn something and be like, oh, I don't like that as much anymore. But art's never felt that way for me. I can still appreciate things and elevate things within my own sort of psyche because of it. So I guess maybe I always do, Frank, but at the same time, that's a cliche answer. I just never really understood. But I always loved, like a lot of kids, comics and animation and skateboard graphics and murals. In the only like outside of California, the only other time I've seen some amazing murals that I thought was work was in Philadelphia. Philadelphia had some amazing murals. I was like, shit.
I always talk about Philadelphia. San Francisco has more murals per square, whatever, even more than Philadelphia, but they're garbage compared to Philadelphia. And that's the reason for that, right? Fucking Thomas Eakins, right? They have a tradition of, foundation that was taken from Europe by Thomas Eakins, who settled in Philadelphia. So there's a reason why there's a lot of badass muralists out there as well.
But I think seeing work on art in that form with art, because a drawing is not necessarily an art piece. An art piece becomes an art piece based on its context. So I've always recognized that that's a place that I wanted to spend most of my time. Either making or teaching or. But I don't know exactly. I don't know if I can give you an actual. I was a kid for sure, being inspired by this stuff. But I think when I went to college, I realized, hey, I guess I want to be an artist.
Right. Yeah. With me, I was always just attracted to the art, of course, or drawing, like you said, comic books. And all the movies I loved were very visual, and I realized that there was a visual aspect to what I was doing. The cool thing, the awesome thing, and then when I decided that's what I want to get into, then it was like, okay, how do I fucking make a living doing it, right? But the awesome part of it is that, like, the more I learned, the more I got into it, man, the more I didn't realize how powerful and awesome that art, what that art was, and the power that it gives us, the voice that it gives us. To me, it's the ultimate. It's an ultimate kind of thing. I didn't know all these things. I feel real lucky to have intuited that it was bigger than what I imagined. As far as what it saved my life, right? I mean, it gave me a platform, right? That if I wasn't doing this, no matter how loud I try to speak or book, I wouldn't be heard. I wouldn't stand out above it. And the power of art. The more I get into it, the more luckier I feel that that I was, a part of something,
Right.
And the type of people, the type of personality that this artist was, who that were able to change the world and that kind of stuff, and to be part of that whole thing, fucking awesome. You know what I mean? But I can't tell. I asked you that because I don't know when I call myself, well, okay, I'm an artist now. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, you probably were the whole time, right? Since we're a little kid. But when you know that you are, I think I wrestled with that for a long time. Before I said, okay, you can't do that. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Awesome, bro. So, man, fuck, man. I think we better cut this fucking. How long we been on here now? We can talk all night.
I know we can. I think we've been on for like maybe almost 2 hours.
2
Which
hours.
is cool.
I'm down to keep going if you guys are. If you guys got time, I'm down.
Well, I gotta put someone to bed.
Well, that's why I'm asking. We had a couple little silent moments there.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, good for you. Sergio, you all right?
I'm good, man.
Cool.
I'm good.
Man, when did you move back from New York back to Los Angeles?
2007.
2007. So I met you in 2001, right? Mm-hmm. So you guys were there for another 7 years. What did you do? And you graduated when? Right after, around the same time?
Yeah, 2002.
And you were trying to stay in New York?
Yeah, we stuck around in New York, and I got a gallery in Boston in 2003 maybe. And I worked odds and ends at the same time, but the Boston gallery was awesome, man. They're like an ATM. You send them, they would sell like fucking good,
Nice.
And but at the same time, I still had to fucking pay, make rent at the time.
You guys had a child out there. Huh?
Yeah. My son was born in Brooklyn, man. So he's a 17-year-old now. Here in Los Angeles. He's Los Angelino. But he was born in Brooklyn in 2003. In 2004, I think, we moved to Long Island. A friend of mine they owned a place out there on that old Vanderbilt property. They had like a house a cow barn that was turned into a home. And they invited us to save money, and my son was just born at the time, and to move out there and save some money and make some work. And I continued to work in the city, and then so we did that. And in like 2005, I moved back to Brooklyn, to Bushwick, where I got an apartment and continued to work, continued to show. Yeah, man, and I would move. We'd come back to Los Angeles in the summers, and I would start teaching. I started teaching in 2005, and then eventually we're just like, we gotta, fuck this dark light over here. We need Los Angeles sun. And eventually,
living in New York taught me how much I love California. It really did, living out there. I mean, I was like, dude, I gotta get back to Cali. Okay, so my intent was to stay in New York. Right when I graduated, that was my whole intention. I'm gonna go and be this New York artist and all that shit. And I got a job at the college I was at, so I didn't have any money. I couldn't turn that offer down, man. So I went back to California. And at the same time, man, I kind of regretted it because the peers, the students I was with, they were doing big things, man. They were magazine covers, and I wasn't doing shit. I was just worried, trying to teach and learn all that, ins and outs of all that. And I was on this accelerated program, we were there for a year or so. We didn't really do any, your masterpiece, right? We had to do these tests, so I didn't really get any time to really develop myself, right? And I kind of had this regret in the back of my mind, like that I stayed there long enough to really, I was trying to learn techniques and instead of learning, finance up there, right? And so I always felt like this regret for not really being able to, not having that. I felt like that was what lacking, was short. And it took a while to figure out, but dude, looking back now that some time went on, if I would have imagined the best career I could have had in New York, and I say I had absolute control of it and could imagine it, and it happened, it would never have been as honest and real as it did for me to go through the rest of the stuff that I did here. Because I evolved as naturally. I didn't. It wasn't forced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the people that were out of that grad school, they're still doing the same shit that they're doing. You know what I mean? Over and over and over and over again. And I was lucky enough that I just kind of grew naturally outside of the art world, and it was just basically doing commissions and shit. You know what I mean? And I learned. I developed myself by communicating with, like, the community, the businesses that are hiring me to do shit, and it evolved naturally. And it really was the most honest. When looking at it, this is who I am. And what I want to say is that it was a natural. It took longer, but it was a natural. I became who I truly am, as opposed to what I thought I was supposed to. Supposed to be. But I didn't see that for a long time, man. It took a lot of years for me to really see that.
Yeah, it's interesting because you go to New York City, and I think that there's a mythology with it. As there is a mythology with being an art student or postgraduate, and you kind of you fight for that. At least you take a chance, and so the expectations of doing that is to succeed in New York City, and that's a great thing, for sure.
Right.
But it's not everybody's thing, No. It has to exist in other places, So
right.
The people who stood there, it's great. The people who continue to live there. That city for me was it's a wonderful experience, man. I love that. I wouldn't change those, but you know what? It was exhausting. It was exhausting. Yeah. I couldn't. It's a young person's town, man.
You got to be either young and poor or old and rich. You can't be in the middle over there. It'll destroy you.
Absolutely.
You can't be young and rich?
Yeah, you can't.
You just can't be in the middle.
That's even better.
And what I'm saying is that I think I would have been something that I'm not if I would have stayed there. You know what I'm saying? So it was a good thing. I would have tried to be something, and it wouldn't have been who I am. That's the way I think. I'm pretty sure that's the way it would happen.
Yeah.
I need to grow another way. Plus, I miss California. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I was painting about California and New York City.
Yeah. The only thing that sucked is when I got home, I was surrounded by there was no more artists. You know what I mean? There was just
well, see, that's the
that was very uninspiring, bro. It was very hard and uninspiring, and it took a while, and I had to be the one to keep rolling with that whole type of.
You find them like artists like now, like what we're doing now from across the states. Like the technology allows us to stay connected. It's all relative. No, and most of the successful artists in the world, like the real successful who do exist in New York City, they live somewhere else, man. They're making art and coming in and selling in New York City. Now there is the New York City crew. There's the people who live in New York City and show, and then they want to show outside. They want to show in Europe. They're showing in, so it's all relative to where you're at, Yeah, I think that the cause and the place and all of the elements for me is California. I'm saying California because eventually would love to be in San Francisco at some point. I love San Francisco, man. Love it.
Me too, man. I never thought I'd be here, living here. I always wanted to, man. I'm truly blessed. And there's another thing. When I first moved out here with my wife, now it was just too crazy here in San Francisco. All the artists were going to are in Oakland right now. So we had found a place near there, Emeryville, a little workplace, and just it happened. The roommate moved out, and I was like, "Fuck it." So I'm one of the few artists, and it was nice, man, because they have the Pursuit Eyes here, which is a nonprofit mural place, and they just fucking embraced me, man. You know what I mean? And they just put me to work, and it's been all good since I've moved out here. But I got lucky to come out here, man, and do that. I'm in my element, you know what I mean? I'm around, and I've got, I fit in well here is what I'm trying to say. But San Francisco's dope. But
I don't miss New York, man. I don't miss New York at all. I definitely have a fondness for the people that I experienced the time that I was there with. And I do have an appreciation for New York and New York museums and the cityscape, but I'm a Los Angelino, man. My roots are here.
The culture, man. The culture over there that's what you go for. If you want to be in culture, that's like their national parks in the sunshine, right? It's the culture, man. That was awesome, but without that, man, you're just in this terrible place out there, right?
Yeah, it could be really ugly really fast.
Right, exactly. Awesome. Yeah. So when you moved out here, were you already working as a teacher? Is that some of the things that made you come out here?
Yeah.
How long have you been a full-time professor?
I've been full-time since for 6 years.
6 years.
I was
you were teaching
part-time. Part-time.
Yeah, I did that for a long time. I used to try to find work, and I used to be all into. I go in there. I'd make like 2,000 applicants. I'd be like the top 5, and just never get hired. I for 2 years of doing that, I got sick of just because they gotta try to pretend like they're gonna hire someone. Sometimes they already know who they're gonna hire and all that. I was like, enough is enough. I'm good. And that's I got kind of done with the teaching aspect. I teach the CCA in the summers and stuff like that, but it's not like a full-time thing anymore.
Yeah, it's hard work, man. It's like anything else. It's exhausting to apply, to interview, and they get rejected. And I got rejected plenty of times, but it's exhausting.
I got a big old list of those. I got a big old thing stacked full of those damn things. You know?
But that's one of the things that they don't talk about when you are an artist or going to art school. What's it like? Stuff of people who just graduated from art school right now during the pandemic. Like the economy sucks ass. Yeah. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Now, if you can make it, you can make it anywhere. And I think that artists, the type of people that they are they're efficient. Yeah, they're efficient and they are they understand how to multitask and do different shit. So that's the type of artist that's going to survive in this
smart.
time.
You gotta be smart.
It's a certain lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that bothered me about when I first came out of grad school and I wouldn't get I had to, and still to this day, I have to make money doing what I do, man. You know what I mean? It's a luxury to be able to paint on canvas and do the things that I want to do. You know what I mean? Because I still got to pay the goddamn bills all the time. And I'm lucky, and I didn't feel. I felt like I was whoring myself out, basically. You know what I mean? And that bothered me. I didn't feel like I was being a real artist for a long time. But lucky, man, I was able to find a way with these murals that my clients were open to my ideas. You know what I mean? They let me do my thing. Well, there had to be certain things that obviously, but I found a way to balance the two, to balance the finances with and still being able to express myself and learn and be creative in those. And it's still stuff that I dealt with. I think you asked me, when did you know you were an artist? I didn't feel like I was an artist because galleries weren't, wanted to be, I just wasn't fitting into all these, and it was just pissing me off. I was like, fuck you guys. I'm going to do my own fucking thing. I'm going to create my own name. And that's what I did. And I love it more because I don't have to answer to nobody. You know what I mean? Like if you get in a certain gallery, hey, you know what, this landscape, so can you make more of these because they sell? And they get trapped. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's what's allowed me to do is to have my own idiosyncratic voice. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't influenced by this thing, and that without me even knowing it, that was really a blessing for me. I can do whatever the fuck I want, basically. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I was able to go within those confines.
Yeah, I don't think there's a formula for art, man. I don't think that's like I think there is a formula for selling work in a gallery, but there's for it to become art. Or for things that are art things, that's not. There's no formula for that, So it's not. I don't think it's a guaranteed thing to be able to show in a gallery.
Yeah, exactly. Like the formulas that I thought were meant success didn't work for me. Yeah. And if they did, it wouldn't have been what it is now, which I think is a more honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's harder. It's worth more. What you do, it's worth more because you carved it out for yourself, Frank. And it's not something that you can go sign an application for and go, here, I want to do this. It's hard ass work, and it's also your own voice. So I think when you tell that to a young person and goes like, how do I become an artist? You got to carve it out for yourself. You got to work your ass off. You got to sacrifice a little bit. You probably cry. You might lose some friends. You might gain some friends. You're probably going to not pay the rent, and then you're probably going to become an artist. They're like, fuck that.
You know, I say jokingly, I tell people, I go, one of the things that I realize now why being taught creativity in college is so important, because they're going to have to find it. They're going to have to be creative as fuck to find a way to make money with it. And that's the truth.
And they don't teach you about the rejection at all.
No, bro. I used to remember, like, they would ask us, you know, hey, what kind of classes do you think we should ask? And I'd always say, a business. Show us how to fucking make money, right? Show us how to, and they would look at me like, you're stupid. You know what I mean? Like, money. What's this? You know what I mean? But they don't, man. I didn't know shit about business, so I had to learn the hard way about all. And the only reason I had to learn all that was so that I could continue making art. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I only got into all that so that I could make. I had to learn business and all that shit so that I could continue to make art. But it was only my love of art that forced me to, you know, to learn all that shit. You know, I'm basically like a contractor. When I go in these places, I'm like the plumber and they're all there too, the electricians. But I'm doing this, and I had to learn all that shit. You know what I mean? I had to learn it the hard way in most of the cases. I know this is a hard question, but my definition of success as an artist, you know, I guess that's what also means, well, when did I know I was an artist? And what I learned was, man, that success is, if you can find a way to keep doing it and survive that, that's success in itself. It was so goddamn hard. It's such a fucking miracle for an artist to be able to do what they do and make a living at it is success in itself. And that's what when I started thinking about things that way, is when I was like, okay, you know, you made it. You know what I mean? You might not be rich, but you made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of it depends on how you define success, you know?
Yeah, I don't think money has to do with success in the art.
Oh, no.
It's nice to have.
Keeps it rolling.
And if it keeps it going, but I know some artists who are fucking. If you want to define success by notoriety, you can find them in museums and you can find them on video, and they might not have the money that you would expect them to have at all. And it's like, what the fuck, you know? Like, but that's not, it's because that's not the guarantee. It's not what it's about either.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
It's like,
yeah, exactly.
So
but the studio lights have to have to stay on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
I used to tell people like, oh, I would get shit. I've heard it all. You know, you're like selling out. You know, motherfucker, are you paying for my fucking bills here? No, let's shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these artists who, I just do this for myself. Oh, I tell them, you know what, bro? That's the philosophy of the fucking fat. You know what I mean? Of the rich and the fat. To just to do all for yourself and jerking off, and to me, it's like jerking off in the corner, because no one's seeing it for them. And the only kind of people that can do that are people who can afford to fucking do that. You obviously don't have to make fucking money and pay bills. You can afford to sit around and jerk off all fucking day. That makes sense? So I've had to, you know, I've had to wrestle with that, making money and, you know, making money and doing what I do. And I still do. Like, a lot of the works, I find a way to get what I want to get across, and still find a financial way to get paid for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But really, dude, I think honestly, what makes me understand and know, what makes me proud, right, and assertive what I do as an artist, is when my peers, like when people like you give me love. I'm like, wow, because I think when my peers who I think are fucking excellent look at me and tell me I'm excellent, then I'm like, bro, I made it, bro. Like that, and I have that respect. It doesn't pay you anything, but it sort of fuck makes me feel a lot fucking better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that's success too, man. I find that your peers, you're acknowledged by your peers. You're able to continue to do it. You have a voice. You know, that's successful. You don't need, you know, like, you just need to do it. You don't need to fucking, you know, get a check from somebody. It's nice. It's always nice, man. It's always nice to have cake. But you know, like, it's just not always at the fucking party, or, you know, or that's not the thing. It's longevity, to be able to continue to sustain it and to do it is hard. So yeah, it's not exactly something I think about in terms of success, but I've been in the presence of a person who's like, oh, that's fucking so-and-so, they're big time, right? It's like, cool, that's amazing. But at the end of the day, you know, they have trouble ordering sometimes, or getting a beer at the bar. You know, like, they're just stupid as the next.
That's me, bro. Lex, you buying the beers this time? No, you know what? Because like I said, man, I sacrifice it. I've never been as broke as I have been since I graduated from grad school. I used to always have good jobs, good money, so it was really hard to these are sacrifices, man. Barely getting by, but and only art would make me fucking sacrifice. And it was tough, man. And all these years without, I was worried. You get scared, like, where's my next shit coming from? And but what I learned over the years is I used to get a lot of anxiety over that shit, right? Because you never know when, how was I gonna. But then I thought back, you know what, dude? Every time the rent needed to go, somehow, some way, it always came through, man. Maybe a day late, maybe 2 days late. And after 10 years of that, I said, you know what? I can't be anxiety over this. Just kind of, I want to say something that's keeping me going because I can't control my customers. I can't control who's going to fucking buy and how much I'm going to. I never know. But somehow, some way, someone hits me up when I need to, here. I need to. Here's a deposit. I need this, and it always happens. So now I've become more relaxed with that, and that filled me out in a big time. But for a lot of years, man, it was that I wasn't used to living like that. Remember, again, the love of art kept me fucking going. And I thought that I had to be a teacher for a long time. And again, when I got the opportunity, I love doing it too. But it's been there, done that for me. And not like I wouldn't take a job, Yale, Harvard, if you're out there. But you know what I'm saying? I'm glad that I made that sacrifice. You know what I mean? It was hard as fuck.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I think that you have to fit it. You have to fit it in for yourself, and then just do it. Because if you can, it's a hustle.
Yeah,
it's a hustle some way. But as long as you're in front of the easel, as long as you're in front of that, whatever it is that you, when you're making stuff, that's what it's about. I mean, at least. And
I had this understanding too. That I realized that what makes a good artist good from great is really who fucking keeps going, right? You're gonna get better. Well, I don't know if you see like Lucian Freud's early work. It's garbage. It looks like kiddie stuff, right? But then you look at Lucian Freud's later work, it's fucking awesome, right? Imagine if he would have quit and then we look at the early work and we go, oh, look how great it was, right? But if he stopped if anybody stops, as long as I was keeping doing it, you're going to be good without a doubt. I had peers when I was young who oozing talent, right? I was like envious of the goddamn talent. But they quit and stopped. Whatever happened. And I kept going. I'm like leaps and bounds in front of these guys. You know what I'm saying? But it's only because I do it all the goddamn time. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I knew that as long as the finances were there, the bills were being paid, then I was going to grow and get better. You can't. That's like a formula that you can't work, hard work, and practice. You're going to get. You're going to get. So I knew as long as I had my fight, but it was hard, bro. You know what I mean? It was like, man, the bills got to get paid. Even like all these artists who have, even Van Gogh. We talk about Van Gogh being, he didn't sell. Dude, his brother Theo was paying the fucking bills, right? So all these guys are financed. These artists are financed, man, so that they can get to a certain level. So that was my idea about, that's kind of how I looked at, having to survive, and that's why it's a success, just to be able to keep doing it.
That's cool.
Cool.
That's cool for sure.
Right on, man. What's up?
So
we got another moment of silence here.
No, I know. So we should kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
Wrap up the show. We're already at 2.5 hours.
And we could let's continue the talk when we get Almanza on here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah.
I'd be down with that.
These podcasts, dude, are a work in progress for us, man. They're going to get better. We already know. As long as we keep, just like I said, as long as we keep doing them, they're going to get better. They're going to.
Yeah, they have to. But
sometimes some of these podcasts are just are set up to another podcast. You know what I mean? That we're going to do later. As well,
This is dope, man. It's a great thing that you guys are doing, man. I'm glad you're doing it. And I'm happy.
It's crazy, bro, how many people fucking listen to us. I didn't think anyone was going to fucking listen to it. And people hit me up like I don't even know on the streets, bro. Like, oh, I look at them like, what?
All right, on, man.
Yeah. And we got people who listen to every single fucking episode, too. It's crazy, man.
I hope that in the future I could come into a studio and do this with you guys.
Oh, that would be awesome. I can't wait till this pandemic is over so we could do that.
There it is, man.
We used to crack open a bottle of tequila and just drink it and talk and truth serum. Truth serum.
At the beginning, we were like critiquing tequilas. Remember? Oh, bro, big mistake, man.
Oh yeah.
By halfway into that show,
we were just like, blah, blah. It was cool. It was fun.
But they were fine. I got a whole stack of tequila bottles that we all signed. But again, we can't. But again, it's hard for like someone like you to come out here all the way to San Francisco just for. I mean, let's do it when you're in town the next time. You know what I'm saying? But
You're
it's
most
hard.
welcome to.
Well, you know, I think it's something to look forward to after this, like Alex said, after this fucking shit is over with, and
Yeah, man.
be hopefully things go back to at least some sense of normality.
Yeah.
Whatever that might be in the future, the normality.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, this was a fun show as always. It's always fun to hang out with you guys.
Great to meet you, Alex.
Sergio, it was a pleasure. I can't wait to have you on again on the show. And Frank, I can't wait to see you again.
Man, I was really excited about having you on the show, bro.
Yeah,
so,
he was for sure. Yeah,
and
me too. Me too. He speaks highly of you. Yeah.
So yeah, man, thank you for coming, man. Thank you for taking your time out, man. You know what I mean, to talk to us and stuff like that.
My pleasure, brother.
Hell yeah, man. Hell
you know, Frank.
All right, guys. You take care, man. Tell your wife and everybody that we say, you know, hi and take care. Stay healthy, stay safe,
stay safe.
Sane. And let's hook up the next time you're out here in the city, man.
Yeah,
for sure, brother.
We'll set up another show with all four of us.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
All right, take care, man. Have a good night.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good one. All right.
Good night, Lex.
Later, man.